Jim Harbaugh getting a little antsy up there in Ann Arbor, perhaps. He finally wins a big game. He's getting a little big for the britches.
I'm not buying it.
Okay.
Not buying it.
Well, we will get into that a little later. Are you not buying him leaving Ann Arbor, or are you not buying the Giants maybe making a move for Jim Harbaugh if he does
the Giants,
leave Ann Arbor?
I think it's more the Raiders or the Bears, which Boomer is now saying that they are going to fire Matt Nagy.
Boomer breaking news again?
Breaking news.
Now, what's his percentage? I don't know. I know you're 1,000 with the Stevie Cohen Mets deal. that Tiki only.
I don't know. We got to
Buster
find
Barber
out.
broke years ago.
I don't know if Hoff can go find out the percentage of Boomer's.
I'm sure it's pretty good.
News breaking acumen.
It makes sense with the Bears, by the way.
People talk to Boomer.
Yeah,
right?
Hey, listen, don't pit me against Boomer.
I'm
not saying
I'm
anything bad
just
against
saying,
Boomer.
I'm just saying that the ratio is probably in his favor.
Although he's not 1,000 like you are.
Well,
Because you're
I've only done one.
Let's keep it at that. So let's not mess around and even and have that number go south. No, listen, it was really dangerous out there. I was telling Teague, I almost crashed my car 2 minutes after I got on the road. Like I lost total control of my SUV. I almost went into a tree, but thank God I didn't. Nobody cares about that. Listen, one thing, and nobody even cares about this, to be fair. I understand. Nobody cares about anything that you and I did on CBS Sports Radio.
Yes.
Nobody.
I do.
Well, I'm saying we do, obviously, but
well, it's not nobody.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
Dude, I just walked in the studio. Just let me get to the point. Like, please don't. I mean, I had a brutal last morning, and I'm trying to ignore it so I don't bore people to tears. But let me just get to my point. We did this one thing, right? And it was amazing. And, if you listen to the national show, honestly, without sounding like we're, overly boastful or whatever, we had this thing called the Tiki and Tierney Mojo.
That's right.
Whenever we brought somebody on the show, and it was, ask our old producer, it was flawless, whether it was an NFL coach, an obscure college coach, it didn't matter who it was. They came on the show, and invariably, they won that next night. Okay?
That's right.
So we know, at least you and I do, and our old audience there, we know about the Tiki and Tierney Mojo. What I did not know, and I knew long ago about the power of the fan, and the influence and the reach of WFAN. What I didn't know was it's as simple as getting on the air, bagging on somebody, and turning that player into a superstar.
You think he actually
R.J. Barrett.
You think R.J. Barrett actually heard what you said?
Absolutely, the Knicks listened to this show.
Do you think R.J.
station.
Barrett actually listened to what you said and said, you know what, I'm going to stick it to that new midday host,
To that
BT.
bold clown?
Exactly.
Well, here's what the Knicks should do. And I know from when I used to work at the other station, the Knicks, unlike, I don't know if they still do this, but I think that they do. And now that we're back in local, I'll find out the absolute answer. Just give me a couple of days on the job here before I really get into everything. Nobody monitors what's said about them like the Knicks. Nobody. So listen, do I think, and Hoff is nodding his head, he knows what's up. Do I think that R.J. Barrett was listening to the show on the treadmill? Or driving from his condo
or the
up in
around,
no.
the early shoot around.
No, exactly. No, I don't. Do I think that maybe somebody from the Knicks said, "Yo, this new guy on FAN is clowning you. You better start busting ass." Otherwise,
no, you weren't clowning him. You were basically
no, I wasn't clowning him.
He's not a super athlete, and they'd be better off trading him.
It's a
like
different
characterization of what he is. I think what happened. Because I remember this happening with me.
He was great.
I didn't listen to necessarily sports talk radio when I was playing, but people would tell me. They would say, hey, did you hear this? Or a friend who is non-athlete.
Who was the one guy that bagged on you the most? It had to be Francesa.
Yeah, it was always Francesa, especially early. But then he started to love me, so it was all good. But it was.
You started winning the money. We know he likes to bet.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, I think he likes to.
Possibly.
Or he did.
But someone told R.J. Barrett, this is what's starting to be said about you. And sometimes that's motivating.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like you don't care. Other times it actually turns you the wrong way because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It could.
He definitely heard about it. It's just a matter of if that actually influenced the night that he had last night.
Here's what I loved. And listen, do I think it influenced the night he had last night? No, of course I don't.
Who cares if it did or not? Take credit for it.
That's right, damn it. And by the way, my next target, Fournier. Although I'm going to have to really leash into him because he has been dreadful.
He was 0 for last night.
He stinks. I mean, every shot. This guy's clanked more open shots than anybody. I mean, in recent Nick, for a guy who actually came with a bit of a label as a shooter, wow, he's been bad. But last night was a win you had to get. If you want to crawl back into this thing, you had to beat the Pacers. You have to start getting some home cooking. They've got a lot of games coming up at the Garden, and they've already left too many the Magic, other winnable games at the Garden on the table, which obviously hurts them. But last night was very encouraging for a couple of and we'll get back to Barrett, obviously, in a moment. But I don't know. Maybe Julius Randle found something last night. And, without getting overly nerdy and boring people with basketball, he did this and the pick and roll. I mean, you watch the game, you know the game, or you don't. But he got to his spots effectively last night. Mm-hmm. And I do think that, and last night kind of felt a little bit like a year ago with Randle and Barrett leading the way, which was a lot of fun. Now, Teak, full disclosure, I was an hour behind the game because we just have a lot going on at the home.
Yeah.
Nothing bad, but there's things that we're dealing with. And, I just had to do some things as a dad. So I was a little bit behind. And Colt and I sat down to watch the game. And I checked my phone right as the game is, again, about an hour behind on the DVR. Teak, I swear to God, hundreds of people hit me up. Dude, you lit up Barrett, or you're a clown. Look how wrong.
I mean, I hit you up.
It is amazing.
I did it.
That is what I missed about local.
Yeah.
People listen to what you say.
You know what got into Julius Randle? RJ Barrett got to Julius Randle because RJ Barrett, he scored 24 points in the first half. Now, he didn't have any assists. He wouldn't help anybody else score, but he scored 24 points in the first half, which allowed Julius Randle not to have to be the burden scorer.
And the facilitator as well.
Right. So last year, I remember this conversation. We had it all the time. You would bring it to the national audience, and I'm like, nobody in Des Moines or in California or in South Dakota gives a crap about Julius Randle.
But you know what? I didn't care because I did. I'm like, I'm going to shove it down your throat, Iowa. I'm talking about the Knicks.
Bringing it up. You kept bringing it up, and people were like forced to sit and here we go, Knicks talk again. But the issue with Julius Randle was that it felt like he was almost trying to do it by himself last year, and he was successful for the most part. Derrick Rose coming off the bench, one of the playing great 6-man basketball. Then they tried to start him, and it screwed it up. And they put him back on the bench, and it worked again. So I think
even Bullock and the role players, etc.
I agree. But what happened with Julius Randle, I felt like he unlocked. That's a cliche to say that. Oh, he unlocked me. Mm-hmm. But when RJ Barrett is playing that well, it just makes it easier for Julius Randle to do what Julius Randle is really great at: crash the boards. He had 16 rebounds last night.
He did,
and not feel like you got to outscore the rest of the opponent. And so we talked yesterday about who's the good complement for Julius Randle, because Julius is the guy, right? Mm-hmm. Who's currently?
No, yeah.
Currently.
Theoretically.
Theoretically, he's the guy right now. He's your alpha on the New York Knicks. How do you, who's the best sidekick for him, so to speak? It's RJ Barrett when he plays like this. Now, RJ Barrett doesn't do this every night.
No, which is my problem.
And if he did do it every night, we'd be having a different conversation. So how do you get this consistently from RJ Barrett is the question. And I don't have an answer for that. I'm not a coach. I did see, I think it was in the Athletic, maybe it was talking about RJ Barrett. He said,
is that the article that I sent you guys?
Maybe.
Was that the one who was talking, something about that? Is that the one who
was talking to? He was 21. Was 21 years old.
Ian O'Connor had that in the post.
Maybe that was Ian O'Connor.
Maybe Ian listened to the show as well, because he had a Barrett article after
no,
our segment.
It definitely was the one you
Ian
sent
O'Connor
me.
piece.
Saying he's 21 years old.
By the way, Marist guy, Ian O'Connor.
You and Marist.
Well, dude, there's only a few of us that matter. Right. I mean, Rick Smits, nobody cares about him anymore.
Bill O'Reilly,
half the country hates him.
I know, right? It's 2 shows in a row we've got Bill O'Reilly in.
That's true.
But if he's playing like that, then Julius Randle's a much better player. Period.
For sure.
Period.
For sure. But here's the problem, and Knicks fans aren't going to like this.
Mm-hmm. You still want to trade him?
Well, now, again, you have to understand the context of our conversation. It was never, Barrett's a bum.
No.
Barrett doesn't try hard. Barrett lacks aptitude. No. It was always about me extrapolating what I've seen so far and trying to, in my own mind, create a vision of what I think that RJ Barrett will ultimately become. Now, you're right. He's still very young.
21.
He's very young. But the NBA has changed a lot. We don't sit there and say, well, Ja Morant is young. When is he going to start being the man? He's the man.
Yeah.
I mean, just ask the Nets the other night. He's the man.
True.
So you know right away in the NBA, it's very rare. Football's different. Baseball's obviously different with the minor leagues, a far more arduous ascent to get to the bigs. In basketball, you kind of know right away if you drafted the right guy. You do. And the thing about Barrett, again, if Barrett was drafted 21st overall, we're throwing a party. We are absolutely loving it. Like, we got excited about Landry Fields back in the day and all these, like Marty Collins, all these other Knicks that were drafted late or second round, whatever, where you invest this hope for. It's got to be different when you're taking third overall. And I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask everybody at 877-337-6666, and I want an answer because despite as great as he was last night, my position remains unchanged. What does he do great?
Not shoot the three. Even though he was pretty good last night, even though he took 5, right? Knocked down 2 of them. So not shoot the 3.
Mm-hmm.
He is big. Right, like
he's got a good body.
Like physically, he's a big player, and so there's potential for mismatches.
Okay. Oh boy, we're reaching when you say that. When you say there's potential for mismatches, what is it, Muggsy Bogues in the post? I mean,
if you ask me,
potential for
like
mismatches.
You mentioned Ja Morant. I watched Ja Morant. The
He's
dude
incredible.
Dude could take over a game.
No, he does.
Right, and it's amazing. It's you just sit back and you're just holding on to your seat watching the dude play.
He's better than Damian. He's the second best point guard in the game right now behind Steph Curry.
I'm not going to say that about R.J. Barrett. I'm not going to say, oh, he's got a great mid-range shot. Oh, he's great, finishing at the rim. I can't say any of those things.
That's my point.
But he does have the potential to have a game like he had.
Okay, but that's not what you need from your third overall pick.
But here's the thing.
He's got to lead the franchise.
You keep bringing this up, and maybe because I feel like once you're on the team, it doesn't matter where you were picked.
Okay.
It's what role you ascend to or what role you are going to ultimately be in. And I think R.J. Barrett, even though he was the third overall pick, which comes with an expectation, he is what he is. And so trying to smash him into, a mold that he might not ever become.
Yeah,
it's a disservice to him. It's a disservice to the Knicks. It's just never going to happen.
I see it differently. I think it's a disservice not to bring this up because I think that this stuff needs to be pointed out. And trust me when I tell you what I'm bringing up right now, the Knicks know. Now I'm not saying that the Knicks agree with my assertions that they should at least field calls or investigate his trade value. I'm not saying that, but they know that they've got an incredibly streaky player. By the way, I don't know if you remember this, Tiki. Last year, there was a stretch. I know it was last year, COVID racked. I get it. But last year, from the middle of December, he actually had a stretch where he was, this is in succession, by the way, Tiki, from 3-point range.
This is last year.
This is in succession.
Okay.
Game. 0 for 6, 0 for 4, 0 for 3, 0 for 8 in a row. Now, and there's been other streaky Knick fans really know where I'm coming from. He's just too streaky. There are other examples. Hell, Steph Curry has a rough couple of games. I get it.
Yeah, but Steph Curry can then drop 60 on you.
Correct. And I look at R.J. Barrett, and I'm thrilled that he played well, and I'm rooting for the young man, and I believe his head is on straight, and he wants to be great, which is half the battle. And I believe he's got real acumen and tenacity, and I believe that he's not afraid of the stage. He will not melt on the New York stage. I promise you that. But it's year 2.5. He's an average athlete, doesn't get to the rim every night, a streaky shooter, and he doesn't put it on the floor where he's going to yo-yo by you. And to me, that's a problem.
With all of that being said, you want to trade him still?
No, I want to field calls, and I want to quietly offer exploratory calls for Karl Anthony Towns, for Bradley Beal. And you'd have to obviously put together Mitchell Robinson and a first-round pick. Listen, just because they beat the Pacers last night, let's not rewrite the narrative. Yeah, the Knicks are underachieving. Actually, they're not even underachieving this year. Last year, they overachieved.
Yeah, the Pacers who have 14 wins.
Yeah, and they were trying to trade everybody. Remember that? Because we talked about that nationally a month ago. All right, what do you think? It was great to see. Does one game change your opinion? Do you think I was dead wrong yesterday? What's his ultimate upside? I mean, when you see R.J. Barrett, do you see a 4, 5, 6-time All-Star? I don't. 877-337-6666. Speaking of Marist, up in Poughkeepsie, Fred is up first, Tiki and Tierney. Freddie, what's happening, Fred?
Hey, what's happening? I agree with you 100%. I wouldn't trade him, but he's not a guy that jumps up by the square. He's not a great shooter. He's a solid number 3 guy. He's a good player on a good team, but he's not your top 2 guy. He can be part of a core 3, but He's not your top two guy.
Freddie Lim is
He's
and
hard
maybe,
worker.
Fred, I got a question for you, Fred. Do you think that at his apex, whenever he fully blossoms, do you see R.J. Barrett as a potential top 3 player on a perennial team battling for conference supremacy? Not only winning championships, but being in the mix year after year for the Eastern Conference Championship as a top 3 player? Yes or no?
Yeah, yes, but the third of the 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I got you.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
you need two stars above him, but he's solid. He doesn't cause problems off the court.
Not at all.
Seems like a good kid.
He's a great kid.
And
no, I got
work
you, Freddie.
hard. He'll
I got
try
you.
defense.
I got you.
but-
Thanks for the
Agree
call
with
there, Fred. Appreciate you, buddy.
But your issue is that as the 3rd overall pick 2 years ago, that's not good enough.
No, it's not. Especially when I see, John Morant. Now, this isn't the Knicks' fault. John Morant went second.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody was focused on Zion. John Morant's going to be by far the best player of that group. Dropping 40 on everybody he plays and, throwing down dunks in Brooklyn and just being by far the best player on that court.
Do you think the Knicks would have taken Ja if he had fallen to 3? Say Barrett goes 2.
At that point, I did not trust the Knicks' judgment enough to think that they would do the right thing.
But did you trust that Ja Morant would be what he is? I honestly, I didn't.
We loved him from Murray State. We talked about him nationally.
I loved him, but it was Murray
I didn't
State.
think he'd be this good.
I didn't either.
This fast.
I
I'd
didn't
be
either.
lying to you.
So
Come
they
on,
wouldn't
man.
have taken Ja.
Well, it doesn't mean they wouldn't. It would have. I don't know. I can't answer
They
that.
would have went for another, blue blood star.
Maybe. I mean, I can't answer that. Jesse's out in Staten Island. Jesse's on the Fan. Tiki and Tierney. Jesse, what's happening, buddy? How you doing today?
How you doing, Tiki Tierney? Welcome to the Fan.
Thanks, pal.
Appreciate
Put
you,
your mic on
man.
there, Tiki.
Yeah, my bad. I'm talking to nobody. Go ahead, Jesse.
That's what you usually say when you're talking to me.
Exactly.
I do the show with nobody. What up, Jess?
I agree with you with RJ, but yesterday I tried to call you guys and I didn't get through. I was going to say that maybe you bring up the John Morton thing, that maybe try to trade him with a first-round pick and try to get him, because it seems like Memphis does better without Ja. So maybe I was thinking maybe they should try to get him to the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, you're making an interesting point, Jesse, because there was a little bit of a stretch there talking about Ja Morant with Memphis. When he was out, they won 3 or 4 games.
Wait, if you're saying that his point that the Grizzlies are better without John Morant, if you're classifying that as interesting, I'm leaving the studio.
I'm not.
That's moronic.
He's saying
Interesting.
He's saying
it's the dumbest thing I've heard since
BT,
we came to the
BT,
Fan.
He's saying facts. He's stating facts.
Oh,
I'm
here
not
we
saying
go.
the opinion is correct.
Okay.
It's a fact.
They did win some games
The
without him.
opinion is not correct, but he is stating facts. But there's no way that the Memphis Grizzlies are better without Ja Morant.
He's so
There's no
good,
chance. I
man.
mean, you saw him what he did against who was it they played?
Well, they played the Nets a couple of nights ago.
No,
He
it
dropped
wasn't the
36,
Nets.
and they played a game last night. He did work again last. He's incredible,
yeah,
John
I'm
Morant.
forgetting who they played last night, but yeah, he is
He's
unbelievable.
incredible. He's great. And they've won, 5 or 6 in a row? 877-337-6666. And by the way, it's not my intention to turn this into an R.J. Barrett versus John Morant
Yeah,
thing.
but you know what? I want somebody to at least guys. I agree with you, BT. Somebody defend R.J. Barrett.
Let's go. Well, did you ever think of this? Maybe your partner's absolutely right.
Absolutely.
Let me just, this is going to sound incredibly brash.
I'm going to be Mr. Particular here.
And I love that you are.
Absolutely.
Well, no, there's no absolutes until the end of the earth. I understand that.
You're saying there's no chance he becomes a perennial all-star. That he becomes a dominant figure, someone that the Knicks fandom's going to chant every night, not just last night when he scored 32.
His PER is 12.
I realize that. And he only scored 8 points in the second half after going 24 with no assists in the first. But still, do you don't think there's no chance?
No, I'm not going to say no chance
Okay,
because I'm
then you
rooting for
can't
the
say
kid.
absolutely correct. Then.
Well, here's what I will say.
I'm just getting particular with you, man.
I understand that. Literal Tiki making his first appearance on the Fan, which is often and annoying because he actually challenged me, which I really love. Here's the bottom line. As much as I've been a dope with my Jet quarterback assessments, I'm very, very rarely wrong with the Knicks.
I got to go research your tweets.
So just take that one to the bank.
I got to go look at your tweets.
You can look as much as you want. With the Knicks, you're going to find a lot of stuff that's right. All right. And I hope I'm wrong on this, by the way. I'm rooting for the kid. 877-337-6666. So not just about reacting to the singular game last night, more macro. Is he a possible second act for a team that really has a chance to win? All right. And by the way, I'm with Tiki. I would love to hear some dissenting opinions. I don't want to hear, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. If you think I'm a moron, which a lot of people do, bring it. Tiki and Tierney here on The Fan.